we hear the phrase find your purpose everywhere, but what does that actually mean?
The purpose is that feeling that you get when the work that you're doing, you know it's really making a difference. I don't know about you, but when I was 2, I wasn't creating my own belief systems. I was taking on my parents, my grandparents, my neighbors. We unconsciously take on all of these belief systems and then we hold on to them.
How do these belief systems steer us off track then when we are living our purpose?
My dad, he had a belief system that you work one job, because that was the environment that he worked in. Whereas for me, I've always had lots of things going on. At one point, I just found that everything else except my permanent job, all the money stopped for some reason.
Hello and welcome to the Human Being Podcast. I am your host, Alicia Lansdown. Today's guest is Megan North. She is a speaker, TV host, and intuitive purpose finder who helps professionals create balance and well-being in their lives. After losing both of her parents, Megan began exploring both traditional and alternative healing, which led her to the work that she does today. With over 20 years of experience and deep commitment to mental health, she helps people find their true north, blending practical coaching with intuitive insight to guide lasting transformation. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you, Alicia. I've been very excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, me too. And so for those who don't know you yet, can you give us a flavour of what your life looks like right now?
Oh my gosh. My life is amazing. I wake up every day loving what I do. I have a lot of varied things in my business, so I love that variety. I'm often told by some people in my business networking group, Megan, you really need to niche. And I say, no way, I would be bored if I was just doing one thing. But life is amazing. I live in a beautiful part of Sydney. I've got a gorgeous husband who you know as well. He makes life amazing and very interesting, always makes me laugh. And that's, I think, one of the most important things for me. My dad had a very weird dad sense of humor and was always making me laugh. So I love the fact that Darren is always making me laugh. So life at the moment is pretty amazing.
Gorgeous. And tell me a little bit more about the work that you do.
So the purpose finding that I do, so I work with my clients to help them find their true north. So at the moment, I've got over 10 one-on-one coaching clients that I'm working with, and they're all at varying stages of what they're doing. So I've got a couple that really don't know what their true north is and what their purpose is, so we're uncovering that. I've got a couple that have got a little bit of an idea, so we're exploring that even more. And then I've got quite a few clients that actually are living their purpose, but they're using me to help them stay accountable for what they want to do and what they want to achieve. Because as you know, when we work for ourselves, it can be a bit lonely at times. And we can also have these amazing things in our mind, but because we're not accountable to anyone, a year can zip by and we think, oh my gosh, this is what I was going to do this year. And we actually didn't because, we make our own decisions in our own timeline. So, so the work I do with them is all very similar. We uncover, the most important thing is we uncover what your values are. Then what we can do is then we can move forward on decision making based on your values. And that is really, really important, because if you are wanting to, say, move out of corporate and start something new, where are your values sitting in relation to what decisions you'll make, what clients you'll work with, even down to what would your business look like or what is your purpose? So the values piece is really important. But the other really important thing that we do is we uncover, is this a passion, a hobby, or is it actually your purpose?
And what led you to this work? Like, was there a sort of turning point or a certain pull towards that direction?
Yeah, it was about 4.5 years ago that I was working in a very, very large organization. I had a very senior HR role. I was about to be made permanent and I was leading a really large team. And I just started to think about, is this really what I want to do anymore? I loved my HR career. I had an incredible career. I love working with people. It's definitely something that drives me. But I just got to the point where I just thought, I don't know whether I want to work for someone anymore. I'd like to be able to manage my own diary, have a day off and not ask for permission, have a holiday and not have to put in leave. And also the other thing was I loved working and coaching all the leaders and all the people that I worked with in organizations, but I didn't get to choose those people. So, working for myself and really having a conversation with people who want to work with me and me deciding if I actually want to work with them or if I'm the right person for them, those were the sort of decisions that wanted to start to make for myself. And so it was a massive decision to make to leave a really, really big role. But I just thought if I don't do it now, it could be another 2 years, 3 years down the track. And it just felt like it was the right time.
Amazing.
Mm.
And yeah, freedom.
Mhm.
And we hear the phrase, find your purpose everywhere, but what does that actually mean?
The purpose is that feeling that you get when the work that you're doing, it's really making a difference. So that's where I talk about the difference between, is it a passion, is it a hobby, or if it's a purpose. So if it's something that, you just love painting or drawing, but you really can't see that being a full-time business or something that you actually just want to keep it as a hobby, then keep it as a hobby. And then a passion could be something that you're really passionate about. But again, could you turn that into a business opportunity that actually then is, sustaining you? And then the purpose piece is a little bit different because it's what's some work that I can do that really lights up my soul, myself, but the people that I work with. I'm making a difference in their lives, but actually it could also be a business. And so some people are in a position where they might need to earn any money anymore. So that passion does become their purpose because the money isn't the driver. Whereas usually most people still want to earn some money. So it's if that purpose can really become a business opportunity that can bring some income in for you.
And what are the key ingredients or conditions, for people discovering their purpose?
I often ask about what lit them up when they were a child. So what sort of things did you do as a kid that actually really brought you joy? What 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 do you do in your current role that actually you feel might make a difference in other people's lives? If it's, I don't do anything at all, then it's like, okay, maybe we need to really rethink this. But then, someone like me, I loved working with people. I loved coaching people and I loved leaders leading their teams and becoming better leaders. So it was one of those things where I just felt in my soul, I love doing this work because I love working with a leader that then is working with their team and I can really see the team uplifting and shifting and changing. And so there's a sort of a slight difference, like a little bit of a difference in those sort of things and the outcomes that happen.
Mm. And
Mm.
when did you realize that that became your purpose? Like, you recognized it, you looked at it and was like, oh, this is my purpose and this is what I'm going to do.
I think it's probably been around for a long time. I used to get a lot of really beautiful, positive feedback from the people I worked with when I was working in HR. And I don't know whether it was just then I got a spark. I sometimes say it was a spark of courage and confidence to think this is something that I could do for me. And it was just a turning point for me, I think, just not wanting to work for someone anymore. I just got to the point where I just didn't want to work for someone anymore. I mean, it hasn't been an easy journey, but as I said, like, I don't work Fridays because I just don't want to work on a Friday. So I just block my diary out. I don't have to ask anyone's permission. And so I think it was just I don't know, maybe something shifted in me. Something in
Mm,
me just thought, this is the time. And as I said, I feel like it was a bit of a blend of like courage and confidence
mm,
to be able to step out and actually to pursue this.
mm. Well, yeah, sometimes the freedom doesn't always equal at first, the same paycheck that you might be receiving in corporate.
Definitely not.
So
And yeah.
so for those type of people that are working in corporate, maybe they've got mortgages, kids, responsibilities, and they want to do something like, maybe they can't see the clear path forward to their
Mm.
purpose. Like, what's really the first step, or something that they can look at for somebody in that situation who has an urge to do something but
Mm.
just doesn't know how to take that first step?
It's then looking at it as an opportunity of, as we call it, a side hustle. What's my side gig? Because I was really lucky in the sense of I could step out of my role, and I live a life where financially I was okay not to be earning any money for a little while. I've got a very supportive husband, and so he was on the journey with me. And so I've been very lucky in that sense. I understand why a lot of businesses probably fold within the first 12 months because honestly, for the first 2 years, I really didn't make any money at all. That was tough. That was really, really tough. I'm glad that I stuck it out, but I was in a position where I could. So if I couldn't, then it's a matter of then what can you do? Can you start something on the side? So if you're wanting to be a coach, or I don't know, if you're wanting to become an artist or anything really, what can you do in your spare time that you could then start as a side business or a side hustle, to then put some time and effort into it, but also you're kind of testing it as well. Because if you then start to put all this energy into something that you think is your purpose, and then it becomes really stressful and you're not enjoying it and you're not getting pleasure out of it, then maybe it's not your purpose. Maybe it really was just an idea of I might turn my passion into my purpose or a business. So
Mm.
there's a bit of testing there as well, I think, because when the pressure comes on, you're either like, I remember my husband saying, just hold on one more day, just hold on, because there was moments where I was like, that's it, I'm going back to HR full time, like I've had it. And he'd be like, no, no, just hold on, one more sleep, one more sleep. And so that holding on, because I just innately trusted that this is what I wanted to do. And so I feel like that was a very big test for me too, in the sense of, is this really my purpose? And the fact that I could hold on was yes. Um, but if you're thinking that something might be a purpose and then you try it out because you can't quit your job and just do it full time, and and you hate it, or it just becomes so stressful and you don't feel it in your gut, like it's not that innate push, then perhaps it may just be a passion or just an interest.
Mm. I
Mm.
feel like too, your purpose, you're always kind of willing to start and test the waters by doing things, for free or contra or whatever, because, it's the thing that you'll do that you don't feel like, oh my God, like people are actually paying me for this. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
And I think there's a sense of guilt though when people do start getting paid for their purpose. Um, so how do we release that guilt and reframe purpose and prosperities? Because, we can't live on air.
unless you've won the lotto. Um, um, I look at money very differently. I just look at it as energy. Money is just energy. And so I feel like that if there is no exchange of money, I actually don't think that the other person is invested. Like a lot of people love freebies, but you get to the point where actually, are you just doing this work with me or are you just because it's free?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that exchange of money, when I sort of shifted my brain and mindset around that, and I do this with my clients in the sense of if someone really wants to work with you, they will be prepared to exchange that money to do the work.
Yeah, and it's an investment, right? Like if people aren't investing that money, they're not going to do the work to get the results
Mhm.
because there's been no investment made except for their time, which people also don't value probably as much
Yep.
as, or most people don't value as much as we really should.
Absolutely. Yeah, they don't
Um,
value it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
it is
Yeah.
interesting. And
And one of the prongs of my business is I'm an energy healer. And so early on, when I was learning how to be a theta healer, a lot of people would be like, oh, let's do a swap. But I quickly stopped doing that because what would happen is people would say, let's do a swap. And then they'd say, oh, can I be the client first? Because I've got something I really want to work on. And so you would do it. And then they'd be like, oh, I've run out of time today. Can I do yours later? Because it was that because they didn't value your time. They just wanted what you could give them. But then
mm,
but I bet if we were paying, like if they were paying me $50, they wouldn't have done that. Or if I was paying them $50, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
That is interesting.
Mm,
Um, I want to talk about the theta healing stuff.
mm.
Tell me about that.
So theta healing is we work with the theta brainwave. So you're in a theta brainwave between the ages of 2 and 6, and that's when you take on all your belief systems. So I don't know about you, but when I was 2, I wasn't creating my own belief systems. I wasn't sitting there thinking, I think I believe in this. Um, I was taking on my parents, my grandparents, my neighbors, like my friends' parents. And so we unconsciously take on all of these belief systems and then we hold on to them. And sometimes they're not really serving us in the way that we want them to. So I'll give you an example. So my dad, incredible. My dad was amazing, and he had a belief system that you just had you work one job because that was the environment that he worked in. He worked in the railway for over 40 years. My dad always had a really good job. Whereas for me, I've always had lots of things going on. So I always had a very good permanent or contract HR role, but then I would do some healing on the side. I do oracle cards as well. I invest in shares, I invest in Bitcoin. Like there's always things that I've got. And so I've always had multiple streams of income coming in. And at one point, I just found that everything else except my permanent job, all the money stopped for some reason. And I just couldn't understand why. And when I did a healing with someone and they said, you've got a belief system that you can only have one job. But when we tested it, it wasn't my belief, it was my dad's belief. And so for some reason that had come up in me, that belief system had resurfaced in me. And so we just cleared that belief system. Obviously, forgiveness for my dad. I mean, that was the way that my dad, I wasn't angry at my dad or anything. And then as soon as we cleared that and then replaced it with positive, that I can, and it's safe to have multiple income and da da da, da, then everything flowed again.
Mm.
Really
And
interesting.
and so in that theta healing, when you're in that brainwave state,
Yep.
that's where the healing takes place.
Yes.
and then you inject a new belief system.
Yeah. So I take the client up into a theta brainwave, so I can do that myself. There's a process that we do. And naturally, when I'm in a theta brainwave, the other person is as well. And so that's when we then change belief systems. So we identify the bottom belief. So there's usually a bottom belief, what we find. There's a process that I go through. So you find the bottom belief, you then heal that belief, but you then need to replace it with positive. Because if we just healed that belief system and removed it, there would be a void. And so then it naturally then just refills it with the same belief system. So what we do is we replace it with the positive of I am, it's safe for me to have, multiple income streams and like lots of I am able to, and the universe supports me in all of these things, my angels, my guides, my dad. And so you fill it, then that void, with all of that positivity, and then the healing takes place, and then the belief is. And it's really interesting because when I do this work with my clients, whenever I get them to talk about at first, what do you want to heal? I get them to feel it in their body, and then I get them to rate it out of 10, because it's a really good way for me to find. And a lot of the time it's 10 out of 10. And then, but what happens is, as we go through this process, I know I'm told by creator of all that is, because I'm clairaudient, I'm told that it's healed. But then what I do is I ask them, can you feel it now? And they're like, no. And I'm like, could you give it out of 10? And they're like, 0. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh,
Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting. So, or if they came back to me and said, oh, I can still feel a little bit, it's like a 2 out of 10. I'm like, okay, well, we've still got a little bit of work to do on that. But it's a really good way to sort of just test where
yeah.
we're at with it.
And is that like because they're not remembering that, is that like a hypnotic state?
Well, it's just because the belief system has been removed and
Oh,
healed and replaced.
they
So
don't
that
even remember.
negative belief, or that belief that wasn't serving them, doesn't
Yeah,
exist anymore. So they don't recognize it. The
yeah,
brain can't find it in their filing cabinet anymore.
yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's
And
fascinating.
so fascinating. Gosh, I need to book in. And so you've given the example of how a belief system that you've had has created, like blocked you from all of this other wealth besides your sort of main HR job. How do
Mm.
these belief systems steer us off track then when we are living our purpose,
Well,
or when we're trying to, rather?
yeah, well, interesting. A lot of it could do also with culture. So one of the clients that I've been working with, she is of Indian culture. And so she was having an issue at work. So we're talking about, I'm working with her at the moment that she works in a corporate role, but she wants to then explore what her purpose is. But one of the things that came up with her that we worked on immediately was she was having real trouble speaking up in meetings at work. And I said to her, okay, well, we probably should look at that, because if you're going to start to follow your purpose elsewhere, you need to be able to speak up. And so what we uncovered was, from a cultural point of view, because from an Indian culture, you need to respect your elders or hierarchy. She was struggling because it was, you need to wait until they speak to you first before you can speak. And so although she was, or she is she's very respective of her culture, she realized that that's actually not serving her at the moment. So we found that belief system. We then replaced it with her, that it's safe and possible for her to speak before she's spoken to, that it's safe, that she's not, rejecting her culture. We put some other belief systems in. And about a week later, she rang me and she said, oh my God, Megan, you're not going to believe it. I said, what? She said, I got into the lift and my boss's boss was in the lift. And I said, good morning, how are you? Before they'd spoken to her. Because that was a massive thing for her, because it was a hierarchy, but she had the confidence and she had a new belief that she could just speak to them straight away.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That is incredible. Yeah, it
Mm.
really shows how that early programming and culture, really shapes us as adults.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
how did your own upbringing, or your parents' approach influence your beliefs, um, besides the sort of money side of things?
Well, the money was a big thing. I'm brought up in a Catholic household. My parents constantly, money is the root of all evil. Money is the root of all, always,
Wow.
My mum didn't work in a traditional job. I'm one of six, so my mum had a job, but it was raising the children. One income family. My parents never traveled overseas because they never had the money. So there was a lot of that sort of thing. But then there was a lot of positives that I had from them as well. Just be really good to people, be kind, that, those basic things as well. But then there were some interesting sort of Catholic things that would come in from a belief system as well. And the funny thing is that so one of my dad's brothers was a Catholic priest, and one of my dad's other brothers was a Maris brother. But I remember I would have been probably not even 10, sitting in church listening to my uncle say a sermon and talking about marriages and raising children. And I remember at that age thinking, how can you be up there talking to this group of people when you're not allowed to get married and you can't have children? I remember really young thinking, where has that, like, it just never computed with me. It's quite interesting. So I don't know whether even from that young period of time I was really curious, but also sort of looking at different perspectives, because I thought, how can he relate to a married woman or a married man? He's never married. How does he
Mm.
know what raising children is like?
How
Really,
in- how
really.
interesting from such a young age
Yeah.
too. And when did you said that you're clairaudient?
But yeah, clairaudience.
When did that start to happen?
I think it was probably around for a long time. Like before my mum passed away, I got to ask her, did I have imaginary friends? And she said, you had so many. But now I realize that I was talking to spirit. Like I just could see spirit. I am not clairvoyant, but I think as a child I was. And so as I grew up, and got into teenage years and later teenage years, I started drinking alcohol, and that blocked a lot of my abilities. And so, how long ago now? 13, maybe 14 years ago, I stopped drinking. And that for me really cleared my channel. But the biggest thing for me, and I still didn't realize I was clairaudient, I used to just feel and intuitively know what I needed to say or do. I used to play with cards, oracle cards, as you can see here. I've got many of them. I used to play with cards, and intuitively I kind of just knew what the message was. But the morning that my mum died, I wasn't there when she passed away because I didn't want, we got called to say, if you want to be here when she passes. I didn't want to do that. I'd already said goodbye to her. I'd been with her the night before. But after she passed away, they called and said, if you want to come in. So I did. And long story short, I actually witnessed my mum's soul leaving her body. It was the biggest gift my mum could have ever given to me. Like it was a profound experience. And that's when everything really cracked open for me. And then that's when I started hearing her. I think that's why I did it, so I could hear her.
And she's talking to you all the time, isn't
Yeah, I've
she?
got her all the time. And it's really cute because often now she comes in with we. So it's like her and dad, like she'll be
Oh.
like, oh, we like that, or oh, we really like that person that you've spoken to.
Oh.
I'm currently speaking to someone, a gentleman that I've recently met about something to do with business. We've got a feeling that we're going to do something. And my mum, when I was talking to him last week, my mum came in and she said, we really like him. So, it's like
Yeah.
it's a beautiful message to get.
Yeah.
particularly from mum. Yeah. And dad.
Wow.
We.
I love that.
Yeah.
And do you think that everyone has these gifts? Yeah.
I think we're all born clairvoyant and clair everything, but I think as we get older, fear steps in, and I also think ego steps in, and also belief systems. People's belief systems. If
Yeah.
they believe in that sort of stuff, then you could grow up in a household that believes, but if you don't, like if it's in a situation where it could be religion or culture or just anything really, then they start to those belief systems start to block us.
And do you think that when we're, heading towards or we're living our true north, our purpose, that, that's when those gifts really unlock because we are living in alignment with, whatever our soul wants or whatever,
Absolutely.
lights us up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then the doorways start to open because you're vibrationally different. Because when you're in alignment and you're doing what you really love and your soul purpose, then your vibration starts to really energetically lift and raise. And so then you start to become more open. You start to bring in different people because your vibration is higher. So then you're bringing in those higher vibration people into your life. And then you start to notice, oh, I haven't spoken to such and such for 6 months. Oh, isn't that interesting? Haven't heard from them. Because then you're shifting through from a vibrational point of view that person probably isn't in your periphery anymore because they're
Interesting.
not aligned. Yeah.
Yeah. And sort of without the theta healing side of things, like when somebody starts to go down the direction of, finding their purpose, living their purpose, but then, you know what I mean, the fears come up, like what are some strategies that they can use to navigate that? Because it's, as you mentioned, is most likely going to be a belief system or something that's blocking them from moving forwards. Like I know personally that I've gone to do things and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm doing and I'm loving it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to burn this to the ground.
So there could be fear of success there, or fear of failure. It's usually a fear that bubbles up somehow, because if you think about it, we are programmed to keep ourselves safe, right? That fight or flight. That's just our natural way that we are created. And so if we're starting to get success and we're starting to get recognition, then our body and our unconscious mind starts to go, oh my gosh, what is this going to mean? Because it doesn't know what the next step is. What does it mean if, I don't know, I become an overnight success? What does it mean if I get discovered and all of a sudden I've got a big following and I'm on TV or something like that? So because of that, our all of the fears and the limiting beliefs come up because it just naturally wants to keep us safe. We don't know what this means, so let's just put those fears in and then that will just bring you back. Oh, okay, we'll just stay here again.
And so how can we push through those,
Yep.
or at least, what is there, like an affirmation or something that we can tell ourselves when those feelings come up to wait to see what's on the other side as opposed to...
Yeah. So reflection, I think, and just sort of thinking through why is that coming up? Has that happened to me before? And so that's often a really good sign because you'll start to go, oh, yes, 2 years ago I was doing something and I was about to, I don't know, become famous, or I was going to, become really successful, or I was going to step into a new level of where I am. And all of a sudden this stuff started to come in. So the first thing is thinking about when has it happened before. Usually it's childhood stuff. But then some things can sort of come through teenage years and young adult as well, or even just through your career, it can have happened as well. So affirmations are fantastic, But I think that self-reflection and just realizing, oh, yes, and thinking, okay, well, there was a situation before. So what was happening for me at that time? And actually, how did I get through that? So you're almost being your own therapist in a sense,
Mm.
because as soon as you recognize and it becomes apparent what that was, that's half the work is done. Because you can then logically look at it. You're then taking your emotion out. There's no emotion attached to it now because you're actually logically thinking about something that happened prior to you because you've recognized it. So affirmations are great. Journaling, you could be then journaling going, okay, well, where's my pros and cons? Realistically, what could really happen if this was really successful? Often it's really nothing. It's, oh my gosh, it's all the positive of something, not really any negative. Doing it like going and seeing someone about it. Like if you feel like you can't get it out of your own way, going and talking to a healer. If you've got a deck of oracle cards or tarot cards, maybe doing a little reading for yourself. There's lots of different ways, but I feel like as soon as you can pinpoint and recognize what's going on, I feel like half or probably even 3/4 of the healing is already done.
Mm. And do you think then, having that in the process, actually scheduling in that reflection time, like, to get ahead of it
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
would
yeah.
be a strategy?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because you're thinking, okay, all right, I've got this really great idea or I've just started this business. When have have I tried this before? You might think, oh my God, is this going to be another failed business? Think about maybe it's a second or third. And so go, okay, well, what was happening for me before? Why wasn't it successful before? What were the things that were coming up that were blocking me? The recognition and just the remembering, I think, is really, really important. Because if you have no idea, then you probably need to go and see a healer or speak to a counselor or something. When it's not in your periphery, it's really hard to uncover and do any work on. But as soon as you start to understand it, you can logically start to work it out.
Mm.
Mm.
I've got a great sort of analogy for fear that I came up with, I don't know, maybe 12 months ago or something, which was like, think about yourself as a scientist. All you're doing is creating a hypothesis on what's going to happen, you're giving it a shot, and then, you're assessing whether it was successful or not.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh my God, that's so scary. I might fail. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think the thing is too, is that one of the other things I talk to my clients about a lot, and it's something that I live by, is I have a very small inner circle that I share my true big thoughts with. I mean, obviously you and I and another friend of ours have our own little circle, and that's where we've got a safe space to really share what we want to do. Because if I'm out there on Instagram going, and this is my next thing, and I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then all of a sudden it doesn't, of course, that fear of failure or, oh my God,
Yeah.
everyone is going to be asking me, how did you go about that? Or why didn't you do that? Whereas I feel like that if you keep those big dreams to a very small closed circle, I actually feel that you get beautiful support from those people who will still challenge you as well. But if it doesn't work out, then you don't have to explain it to 100,000 people.
Mhm. Yeah, like the quiet succeeder
Yes,
just
yes.
working in the background. I know when I first was about to start my business, I had all of these different business names and I'd run them past people and they'd be like, oh, but what about this and what about that? And then I started my business and went, oh, I just started a business. This is the name. No one had a comment because it was done and dusted. I wasn't
Yeah.
inviting, feedback in. I was just telling them, yes, it's done.
hmm And
So,
yeah, exactly, exactly. And James Clear in Atomic Habits, I love the fact that what he talks about is that working on something 1% of the day, like doing 1% a day, right? You're just chipping away. And he'll say that people will do that for years and then they get that one break and then everyone calls them an overnight success. They're
Yeah.
not an overnight success. They've just been quietly chipping away and working on something and building it and building it. And just because one thing has happened, then all of a sudden it's like pop. But I that analogy always sort of sits in my head. I think it's a very good explanation.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think too, like success means different things to different people.
Yep.
What does it mean to you?
For me, it's about how I feel about myself and also the impact that I'm having on the people that are around me.
It's
So
beautiful.
when my clients are having really big breakthroughs, or I've just had one client recently, she and I have worked together for 6 months, and then she said, I don't want this to stop because I'm getting so much out of this. Can I do another 6 months with you? I'm like, of course you can. Like for me, that was really successful because I thought, oh my gosh, she has made so much improvement and momentum and all of these changes, but she wants to keep going. So for me, that's like, I feel like that's been really successful, not from my point of view, but for her. So yeah, I think that's I just always want to make sure that I'm just having an impact on everyone
Yeah,
that I talk to and come across.
it's beautiful.
Mm.
And creating, I think there's something in creating the life that you want than, asking for permission, right? Like, we get to do this on our terms. I think the world there's so many opportunities now for us to do whatever we want and start the business that we want without having to ask for permission. But I think a lot of people still wait for that permission. Why do you think that's so?
Why do people wait for the permission? I think a lot of people worry about what other people are going to say. And so, like, I talk to some people and they say, oh, well, if I get that redundancy from work, then I'll do this. And I'm like, why wait for the redundancy? Like, just do it. Just start it now. Even if you're not leaving the job, just still start it now. And if you get the redundancy, then congratulations, that's fantastic. But I really do think that a lot of people worry about what other people are going to say. And you know what? At the end of the day, most of the time, no one cares. Really. Do you know what I mean? Like, like from a social media point of view, I think I read a stat just recently that we've got less than 2 seconds now to grab someone's attention on social media.
That's how
Seriously, what I'm doing in my life is really like no one really cares. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm
yeah.
being very open and honest there in that sense. So
we're all getting 2 seconds of airtime.
exactly. And considering there's 8 billion of us in the world, like really? So I do think that there's a fear there of what will other people think. Um, and it's also then how do you bring in that courage and the confidence to be able to just step in and just do it. But again, also what we were talking about before, it's also having restraint of asking 50 people what they think. At the end of the day, it's you making that decision yourself. You give yourself permission to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And it's your life, right? Like the people that are giving their opinion or care well, in your head, you might be making up stories that,
Correct.
of their judgment or whatever. But at the end of the day, they might not exist in your life in the next 5 years or 6 months or whatever. So it's what do
Exactly.
you want to do?
Exactly. And a lot of the time, the people that are going to judge you or comment is because they don't have the courage to do it themselves. You're actually doing something that they would really love to do, but they can't.
Yeah. And you mentioned as well, like, courage and confidence, what's the difference between, you've got to have the confidence to have the courage to do
Yep.
like
So I use courage and confidence a lot in relation to when we're putting boundaries in place, managing expectations, as we say in corporate. But, boundaries. I talk about the fact that, do you need courage or confidence to do it? So when I'm saying if you need courage, you're usually worried about what the response is from the other person. But if you're confident, you don't actually care. You're just going to do it anyway because you know it's right.
Love that.
Hmm.
And so back to creating your purpose, living your purpose, taking steps. What are some practical steps that people can do? What's, the first step that they can do? They want to do something, they're in their corporate job or, whatever their situation is. What would be the first sort of step that you'd recommend?
So probably write a little list of like what's a hobby, a passion, and what you think might be a purpose, or even start a hobby and a passion list and then look at it practically. Could one of these then turn into my purpose? Or you could look at, say, a hobby, like if it's painting or drawing, as we talked about before. Is that really, like, how could that have an impact on someone moving forward? Could I really be changing people's lives with this? You could. Realistically, is that what you want to be doing all the time? So it's
Yeah.
probably just sort of thinking about those things that really light you up. The other thing then is that is there one thing that you've always really, really wished that you could do, but you've never ever explored it before? So writing that down and actually just sort
Yeah.
of looking, sort of contemplating it as well.
Yeah.
And then maybe exploring that of, could this be something that I could do moving forward? I think it's just being practical at first, taking the emotion out in a sense, and being quite practical about what are all those things that are going through in your mind, or talking to someone that you really trust who would challenge you as well. Have a chat with someone and say, this is what I'm thinking. Can I just talk this through with you? I wouldn't be saying, what do you think? It's more, can I just get it out of my head? Because often
Yeah.
zipping around our brain, and sort of just getting it out.
Mm.
Mm.
Most likely to the person that's going to say to you, just go and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think sometimes when we're seeking that, outflow, that we do go to certain people for certain answers,
Mm-hmm.
like subconsciously. We'll go to the person, if there's something that we're feeling more fearful about doing, we'll go to the person that's going to say, oh, don't do that.
Yep. 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 And they're like, oh, well,
Oh,
that just validated me, so I'm not going to do it now.
yeah.
That's why I say in your inner circle, you need people that are also going to challenge you. I don't want just all yes, Megan people in my circle. I want
Yeah.
people. So, the beginning of last year, I did a full rebrand. So I had two businesses and I decided to merge them together and rebrand everything just in my name. And I have a graphic designer and she did some logos and I landed on a logo. And I have two friends that live up the coast and I'm very, very close to them. They're kind of my pseudo parents in a sense. And I sent them the logo and they called me and they said, we don't like it. It's not you.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I said, well, tell me why. And when they explained it, there were aspects of it that I was like, you're right. It actually isn't me. I was really grateful that they were so open. But that's the type of feedback that I want. I want people to challenge me.
yeah. I love
So,
that.
hmm.
Love that. And
Mm.
just one last question.
Mm.
What does being human mean to you?
I have thought about this for a little while because it's such an interesting question. But the thing for me is, being human is being in a position where we can just be kind to people and to yourself.
Gorgeous.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time and energy. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. I've loved it. It's been really lovely. And it's funny actually because we know each other so well, but it's quite interesting having this type of conversation, a little bit more formal. But it's been beautiful. You've made it really enjoyable. Thank you.